So you're looking for help or advice coming out to your Latino family. So obviously this is something I already went through. So I'm gonna give y'all the chisme, and how I got through it, and I'll share my story and how it all went down. And I'll also give y'all some advice, some tips, so that hopefully by the end of the video, you at least feel a little bit more prepared. But I'm gonna be honest, no matter what you do, it's always gonna be scary. Coming out as trans, as queer is probably the scariest thing you can do in the world, because most people just won't understand it. That's especially true in Latino households, because of the fact that a lot of Latinos usually have conservative tendencies or ideologies due to the fact that many people are Catholic or Christian, whatever have you. Religion is a big part in our cultures, and therefore it can be extra tough because you just don't know how your family's gonna react. A lot of people, especially Latinos, are not well versed or educated in these topics, especially because machismo and toxic masculinity runs rampant in our cultures as well. But before we get to all of that, I'm Elsie. I make content discussing LGBTQ queer related topics. I myself am trans, and so if y'all want to support me, please like the video and subscribe so you don't miss my next video. And I'm also on Instagram, TikTok, all the platforms, and join our Discord server. I just made it, so hopefully that ends up growing and we help support each other. Okay, so my story and how I came out to my parents is a little peculiar, okay? That's my favorite word, by the way. I can't even pronounce it all the time. So my parents are Mexican, so, they migrated from Mexico long time ago. And eventually settled here in New York City, which is where I was born. I am almost 5 years on hormones, and it's kind of crazy. It's been that long since I fully socially transitioned. Let me tell y'all, I was hella scared. And the funny thing about me coming out is that I literally started hormones before I even told my parents. I was literally almost 3 months on hormones, and I still lived with my parents at the time. So literally I was trying to hide my body because it was already changing pretty rapidly. You'd be surprised how little time you need to actually start seeing results. Even 1, 2, 3 months into it, your face already starts to change, and you get a little bit of body fat redistribution, but that's the awkward stage. And so I was literally wearing baggy clothing and hiding my body. And basically I forced myself to come out because I literally had no other choice. I had to do it because there was no way I could hide it any longer, But before I came out to my parents, I actually came out to my siblings, which I have 3 of, and I'm the youngest of 4, right? And the way I did it, I didn't even tell my siblings in person. I literally told them through text. I literally was so nervous and I was so over it. I was just you know what? I'm gonna write a freaking long ass paragraph and just tell them how I feel and that I'm trans and that I've always felt this way. And I will say that I am very fortunate to have a very loving and accepting family, and my siblings supported me through all of that. They even offered to be there with me when I actually came out to my parents, which we eventually did. We did it as a family. We had a little reunion. And I remember my dad being so scared because he's like, "What's wrong? Are you sick? Why is everyone here?" He was so scared and paranoid. But yeah, one of the many reasons that I was scared is because, a lot of our family members are just unaware of what trans even is. And so when I came out to my parents, the first thing I said, "Do y'all know what being trans is?" I was like, "Ustedes saben lo que es ser transgénero or una persona trans?" They both told me that they didn't know anything about trans people. And to them, it was oh, everyone is just gay or straight, or if you want to be a woman or you feel that way, or you're dressing as a woman, you're just gay. And so they didn't know all the complexities of everything. And so basically once I explained to them what a trans person was, they basically understood the basics of oh, you're a woman. And it was very emotional. And again, I'm very fortunate to have a loving family because my parents were just they hug me instantly and they're like, we love you, and no matter what you do, as long as you're happy, we want you to be happy, and we'll never not love you for being who you are. And they apologize to me because they're like, we're so sorry, we thought you were a boy, so we raised you as a boy. And I just want to acknowledge, like, I gotta give my parents a lot of credit, because growing up, we were one of those families that literally went to church almost every Sunday. And I mean, eventually as we grew older, you know, that those habits became less and less. My parents basically, like, the way I grew up, I remember, like, I couldn't shave my arm hair. Like, one time they caught me and they're like, no, men don't do that. You have to be a man. You have to be a certain way. And when I had long hair, they were always pushing me to cut it, because they're like, only women have long hair, this and that. But, you know, eventually with time, they just progressed in, like, being more accepting of everyone and everything. And, you know, we also live in New York City. Like, I grew up in New York City, and, you know, it's very, very progressive. You see a lot of queer people everywhere. But growing up, you know, it was still something that was not fully accepted. Like, pretty much the F-slur and, like, you know, gay and queer people were always the butt of the joke. So, you know, that was, like, the difficult part of trying to get my parents to understand what being trans is. I mean, yeah, that's the gist of it. And yeah, of course I was scared, but, like, I basically gave myself no other choice. And you don't really have a choice if you're queer or trans. Like, if you want to be miserable your whole life and unhappy, then, you know, you'll stay in the closet. But ultimately, if you are trans or queer, it's not a choice. Like, that's just who you are. And so, like, the longer you wait to come out, the more shitty your life is going to be. And so at some point you have to choose to live life for yourself, because a lot of us are living life based on the expectations set by society, by other people, and the pressures they give us, and, like, fitting into these roles of. So let me start with a little bit of tips, right? Okay, some ways you can try to, like, be a little bit more prepared is kind of, like, poke a little bit, like, start introducing some kind of, like, queer questions and topics to your family members to see, like, where their head is at. Like, maybe, I don't know, show them, like, shorts or a reel of, like, a gay person, or, like, a story of queer people, and then just be like, you know, what if like, you could literally use, like, a cousin or a brother or a sibling. They're like, you can literally be like, well, what if they were gay or this and that or whatever? Would you still love them and accept them, to see, like, where they're at, right? So you can feel a little bit more prepared on, like, what their reaction would be. And if they do have a bad reaction, maybe start to challenge them on their opinions and beliefs on why that's wrong. Just be like, hey, but why do you think that's wrong? Like, does it really affect you? Because honestly, like, a lot of families who are conservative, they tend to view their children as a reflection of their own, how successful they are in, like, raising their children. So it's like they almost take ownership of their children's lives, which is, like, not really okay, because as a parent, you should be guiding your child to make their own decisions, and, like, really just letting them be themselves, and just trying to, you know, help them along their journey, because they are their own person. They are individuals with their own lives. They're gonna grow up, like, you know, you gotta get them prepared as much as possible. I don't know, that's just what I think, and that's how it should be. Because a lot of people will think, like, oh no, my child is trans or is gay or whatever, and they'll look at that like, how dare you embarrass me, how dare you this and that. But again, they're looking at it like as if you are a representative of the whole family as a whole, or, like, representative of, like, how good they raised you. But that's just really unfortunate, and a lot of that thinking, again, runs rampant in Latino households because of the church and all of this conservatism that unfortunately exists. But I always say, you know, love is love, and sometimes you have to give people a chance to change, because sometimes they will realize that what they think was wrong when a family member or their son or their daughter is gay or trans. Like, that'll open their mind, because a lot of people were just never exposed to these things, or, like, they've never had a family member or, like, anyone around them who is trans. That's my other advice, is that, like, you kind of have to meet them where they're at. And like, and even though it's kind of burdensome, like sometimes you do have to take on the role as like an educator and trying to educate your family members on like what's okay, what's not okay. But another thing too, if you think that your family is going to react badly, I would consider having a plan. Like, who can you go to for comfort? Do you have family members or friends you can go afterwards, just to give it some space to, like, have everything kind of, settle down? Because it is a big event, especially if your parents aren't used to it or your family. Like, it'll take some time for them to process. So, you just need to give them some time too. And, always keep in mind your safety too, because unfortunately some families will literally like kick out their children for being queer. And like, it's just awful. It's the most horrible thing I think you can do. And like, that is not unconditional love. And you should be giving your child unconditional love. And like, again, if they kick you out for being you, it's like that love is conditional, right? And like, one thing I did after coming out, I literally like found online some like resources of like understanding what trans people are, and I downloaded it in Spanish, and then I gave it to my parents, like even like a pamphlet, whatever, and pass it to them and tell them like, hey, look, if you want to know more about this, you can read this, and then we can go over it in the future if you have any questions, this and that. And basically, I ended up reintroducing myself as Elsie is my first name, Juliet is my middle name, but like my family members and people who are close to me, I prefer them to call me Juliet. A lot of them call me Julie or Jules. And then after, I was like, my pronouns are she, her. So like, every time you refer to me, say she, her. So in Spanish, ella, and again, I'm very fortunate. I have a very loving and accepting family. But yeah, the other thing I want to say is that the fear is always going to be there. Like, it's literally a leap of faith you have to take. Like, it's like ripping out a Band-Aid, right? It's going to hurt, but eventually it'll heal. And so that's kind of how you got to look at coming out. And unfortunately, you might have to deal with people who are machistas, like that toxic masculinity within our culture. And you just have to kind of, again, it's burdensome, but you have to like kind of like make them question, like, okay, but why do you think that? Like, why is somebody else's decision like upsetting you? Like, why? Like, does it really affect you what another person does with their life and how they choose to live? Like, because what you'll find is that a lot of people just end up repeating whatever like mainstream opinion there is, whatever they heard. Because again, a lot of people don't come across trans people. So a lot of times they're just going to go with whatever they see in movies and social media. And we all know that trans people and queer people are portrayed as like these deviant freaks, like especially trans women, like, oh, men going into the women's bathroom or whatever have you. And like, literally, like, us trans people, we make less than 1% of the entire population. Like, we're just trying to live our lives, we just want to use the bathroom, like, leave us alone. Getting past all those comments and all those things, like, it's gonna be tough, but you have to just, brush it aside and be like, you know what, I don't really care what you have to say, because again, I'm living my life for me, and you do you, right? You believe whatever you want, and you really have to like prioritize your happiness and your life, because again, like, at the end of the day, who are you living for, right? You're going to be in your body for the rest of your life, and you only live once. Like, you deserve to be happy, and you deserve to express yourself however you see fit. And just a lot of people don't get that, and it's very unfortunate, but, it's just a part of the process of coming out. But yeah, the hardest part, I think, is always going to be, like, especially with, like, family members that just don't understand, is, like, giving them a chance and time to like really process it and get used to it, because again, sometimes they might reject the whole idea of you being trans, but it might be their first reaction might be horrible, but maybe they'll come around. Hopefully that's the case. You can't wait forever, so just sometimes you gotta give people some space and let them learn things on their own. I hope that y'all got something out of this video and y'all feel at least a little bit prepared. Anyways, thank y'all for watching the video. Let me know if y'all have any more comments or any more specific advice y'all want, or a recommendation of a different topic y'all want me to cover for the future. Let me know. And yeah, I hope to see y'all again in the next video. Anyway, goodbye, my loves. Take care, and remember, you deserve to be happy and prioritize your happiness over anything else. And yeah, anyway, goodbye.